back. Let's talk about the state of our nation. There is a lot to comment about as far as Nigeria is concerned. It's been many years and we've been grappling with all forms of issues, one of which has to do with the issue of being able to attain nationhood. Maybe we're a country, but as a nation, that may be debatable. We're made up of several ethnic nationalities, depending on who you're listening to, between 200 to 400 ethnic nationalities. To aggregate that to form a nation is at the bane of our polity to see how that will happen. And what we observe most of the time is that when it comes to election cycle, you see that being stoked over and over. So we're divided across either ethnic lines or religious lines or all forms of lines. And so that's an aspiration as a nation we're working towards as a people. And this is the moment where everybody has to be on the table, because insecurity is everybody's problem. Whether you're listening to the government or you're listening to the security expert, everybody has to say something if you see something. But we must also be able to interrogate all the efforts so far and see how it goes. But let's begin with some of the latest decisions by the government of the day under President Bola Tinubu. Let's bring in my guest, Professor Anthony Kila. He's a professor of strategy and development. He joins us virtually. Professor Kila, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Good to be here. Good evening.
Good evening, Prof. Also, let's get started with before we get to the issue of security, let's talk about, there's a lot of furor, there's a lot of talk about this ambassadorial nominee. I remember the very first list that came out. In fact, all hell, like literally everybody was talking, or some for, some and against, and that as it may. And then we see another list again today, making the total number 68, but 3 have been screened, but there are new names added. The former had highlights like Femi Fani-Kayode, Reno Mokri, Mahmoud Yakubu, the former INEC chair. And this time we're seeing Ibokete Bas, the immediate past sole administrator. We're seeing General Dambazo, who was an interior minister, and several other persons. First, your take on the list that you've seen so far.
Well, I think my initial reaction, by the way, let me start this way, because I know quite a few of those people, the people on the list. There's some of them I know personally, and I've sent them congratulatory message, which they hope that they do very well. Some of them, I'm sure they would likely do well the way they are. Some of them would need a bit of push and guidance and instruction to do well. But, you know, that's where we are now. I think my judgment when I saw the list is that the elephant has given birth to a rat. I say this because many of those people were ex-this, ex-that. They are people who are known. So if it's going to take the president and the presidency so much time to give birth to this list, then it's a bit of an anticlimax. You would think if they were going to spend 2 years to make up this list, they were coming with unknown, innovative people that required a heck of a vetting, and they've gone to the end of the world to go and look for them. You know, these are people that are around that, you know, you didn't take that long. I hope these people, or better still, I hope the president is able to give them good guidelines on what is expected of them, and then they follow it. It will be very bad of me to come on national TV and keep quiet over the nomination of the former INEC chairman. That is a bad choice. What is the hurry after 8 years of managing INEC to need another job? Let him go and reflect on the election he has conducted and maybe write a book about it or something. What is this rush to make him ambassador immediately? I think that's a bad call. And, you know, I take him, but there are also some other bad calls. But there's some good calls. But, you know, overall, since they're there, my hope is that they get good guidance, they get good output, and they push towards representing the country with dignity and building product. I contest the process, but I think as citizens, we just have to hope for the best. And I want to say this, no matter how much you disagree with the government, you should never hope your country fails. You should always hope it does best. But I think some things they're doing wrongly.
Yeah, I like that very patriotic line that you just mentioned. No matter how much you don't like or like government, you don't hope your country fails. Now, let's talk about one of the things I'm trying to look at is when people are critical of these names, what exactly is expected of an ambassador or a high commissioner in that sense, so that we know whether they fit the bill? So two yardsticks I would like you to speak to. Maybe you add yours. Just thinking out loud. Credential and credibility for the people that some people feel are dots in the system by their own interpretation. Is it that they don't fit the credential yardstick or criteria, or they don't fit the credibility criteria? And how does that affect their work in any shape or form?
Well, I think credibility and credential are a very crucial thing. That is the expected outcome. I was criticizing the process in the sense that, if you're going to take people that you already know, that we all know who they are, you know who they are, you might as well done it a month after you got in the office. If it's going to take you 2 years to build the known, there's something faulty with that process. To add to it, there's a bit of unpleasant suspicion that this thing is being done in reaction to an external force, i.e., the orange factor, the Trump factor. That doesn't look very good, whatever you call it. Those are kind of embarrassing things, true or false as they are. But to go to your output, to the to the criteria that you talk about, credentials and capability, the role of an ambassador is to represent the country in formal settings, institutional settings, protocol settings, and informal settings, i.e., representing different kind of organizations. Then the ambassador is also the eye of the country that it represents while abroad. So the duty of an ambassador will include picking up news items, picking opportunities for Nigeria, interfacing, and of course using his office to promote the welfare of the citizens and processes that needs to be done. To do that, an ambassador should understand his or her own country of origin, i.e. Nigeria, to understand what we have, what we need, what we are proposing, and then understand the country they're going to, so that when opportunities are there, they can pick it up. Better still if they have a bit of a cultural anthropology of that country, so they don't go and make a fool of themselves there. Although they will be guided, but they need to do it. Underlying all this, a good ambassador must have good communication skills to be able to promote the country, and they should be able to discern from good and bad company. Let us hope the people we're sending also have character, and that they're not using the ambassador role to get visa for themselves or for their families. Not people who have been, we not choose an association of people who are hoping to japa, and this is their chance becoming an ambassador, and they become a visa racketer rather than representing the country. A good choice will take care of all these metrics. So it's competence, credibility, and character are the 3 C's you're looking for.
All right, Prof. Before I let you off on this ambassadorial nominee issue, without belaboring the issue, sometimes people feel that literally every other person who is not a politician is unfair to politicians. As soon as their names pop up in any of these lists, people just know why a politician. That's why we have career and non-career ambassador. But there's something I would like you to speak to that, if you noticed it. The president, perhaps, is also playing a good politics here, because if you look at the list that he has released so far, it comprises of people who are not members of his political party. It even comprises of people who in the past has insulted him, or whatever language is used in this sense. But what do you make of his approach to carry everyone along, despite the grumbling in some of the names that have been listed?
I have an issue with that. It's not as good as it seems. You see, if he had come out to make the list to say, dear Nigerians, I'm making a list based on merit, and it doesn't really matter to me, their party of origin, it would sound better. In this case, it just sounds confused. It just tells you that the past has no meaning, that affiliation has no significance, and there is no idea or ideology that divides or unites these people. And we should be very careful, because politicians, especially Nigerian politicians, they pay a lot of service to loyalty. It appears the way to become recognized is to insult the president or be on the other side before. Then they will clap for you. then those who have always been on the side of the president or his party seems to be dullards or losers. We need to be very careful about these things, otherwise, because it breeds out the wrong kind of idea. So I think expressing it, justifying it, analyzing it, juxtaposing it to other kind of thoughts and putting into context is a duty that the president and the presidency has. It would be good not just to send people out as ambassadors or for nomination, but to say the reason why I'm choosing Mr. XYZ is precisely for these 5 reasons. Not just their CV, to say, given what we hope to achieve, our posture with Israel, this is kind of the person we're sending there. Based on our posture to the US, this is the person we're sending there. You see, that is accountability, transparency, and a sense of logic. Somebody might say to me, no, you don't do all your politics in open here. Trust me, this is 2025, almost 2026. Secrets are less. The world is like Google, is like AI. Everything is there. So those who think they want to run the world in an opaque way risk being alienated and risk being overrun by other people.
All right, Prof, I want to explore even further, but not on the ambassadorial list this time, as we talk about issues around security. Because you mentioned it in passing, it just came into my mind. I said, it's a difficult challenge, even among politicians, because as you know what the system looks like, in politics, somebody brings you to the table to have a seat on that table. In fact, what the military did under the IBB administration to form the SDP and the NRC, the logic was to say, we don't want a conversation around founding fathers. So if you're left-leaning, go this way. If you're right-leaning, go this way. So nobody said we were the founding fathers, our signatures were the original signatures. Forget about all of that. But that was under a military government. Now we have national leaders and all of that. My question is, because it plays out in how people serve their country, how can we help politicians, or how can politicians get to a point where there's stronger loyalty to states than to persons, despite the respect and honor they have for that person? It's a difficult line for most of them.
Why don't you ask me who I would like as ambassador? I would have mentioned you. That's a question you should have asked me. You didn't ask me that one. I would have nominated
I like
you.
my job.
Fair enough. That's a good answer. Well, no, I think this issue of loyalty, look, the idea of loyalty is a good thing, it's a noble thing. But let's really face it, we should be more interested in affinity to ideas. You see, if people are truly independent, worthy of the title leader, the issue of loyalty will be less than that of affinity. We talk about loyalty because there's a vacuum of ideas, of ideology, of principle in our political space. People talk about father, godfather, mentor, the person that made them. People describe themselves as other people's boy. When you see fathers of family calling other people their father, we're creating a nation of orphans where people are looking for fathers where they did not put fathers. Those things stem out of the shallow nature of our political discourse and practice. It is because the conversation is not about inflation, it's not about other physical policies or monetary policies or environment or ways to create jobs. Because the conversation is not around those things. It's about North-South, Muslim, Christian. There's some states where they're having arguments for gubernatorial candidates about senatorial districts within the same state. So it's about religion, it's about this, it's about that. So when you look at that, there's no space for what politics ought to be. In reality, politics ought to be an association of great minds, potential leaders that get together because they share some common ideas. And they decide that in this moment, given the context of our country, you are best suited to lead because of what is going on in the world, knowing in their mind that it could be me instead of you. And let me tell, I have some information, dear viewers. Every council member I'm talking local government council, not chairman, just council member, that is worthy of his salt, has the right to have ambition to be president of Nigeria. The only question is, can they do it? So this idea of people subjugating their vision for loyalty to a person is because, quite frankly, we are giving the jobs of men to boys.
A very strong word there, Prof. Prof, let's talk about security. I was just doing some calculations. We're glad that some people are back or been released, rescued. What everybody seems to be asking is what happened to the abductors. We'll come to that question in just a moment. But my little mathematics, I calculated maybe around 2 weeks or slightly more from kidnapping of the 24 girls to the one in Iruku in Kwara State, about 38 or so, and then 300 plus, we're not sure of the exact number, in Niger, in Papri, and then another 11 after the 38 were released. So if you put all that together, bordering on almost 400, 370-something people kidnapped in very quick succession. Well, gladly, we've had some numbers come back, 50, 34, and all of that. We still have over 200 still in captivity. The NSA had visited to assure the parents and the government that they will be out. What do you make of what is really happening in Nigeria? Is this a very festering situation, a false flag operation, or coordinated chaos, or this is us just losing grip of what is happening to us? Or the statement by Donald Trump is what has triggered some of these things? Because there are so many conjectures and speculations. What do you make of it and the response of government?
Well, I think, you see, it's a bit of everything, and it's a bit of everything that you say. Coordinated kind of attack on us. It could also be not coordinated. Certainly, it's embarrassing and it is painful. It is painful because when you look at these figures, one thing we do not talk about when we talk about these numbers is that each person, you talk about 24 or 100, each person belongs to a network of about 50 people. Parents, family members, teachers and friends, and you're talking blood and pain here, and something very messy that we're not seeing very well, and that's a very sad place to be. The other is the embarrassment. You see, because it's happening to us, and we're recording it, I want our viewers to know that in the world, it's not normal to capture 24 people, let alone 50 or 100. You know, it's not something that is usual, and I say this from the history of the world. Maybe they've captured slaves, but not school children. When there was slaves, there was not so many schools. Not school children that they go and capture all that amount. It's something crazy. If you read stories of people who came back from slavery, their account of how they were captured is very similar to how the children of today and people of today are abducted. You know, how they woke up in the morning expecting something else, and another thing happened to them. The pain is, and there's an embarrassment for the country, because you would think after the Chibok girls, Nigeria will become the country of an expert country in how to defend children. That is how to rule. When something happens to you, you say never again, and you react to it. Now, the fact it has happened to us again shows us that whether we accept it or not, the people against us have declared war on Nigeria, and they're taunting us, and they're becoming more aggressive. How can you, when one man just said that you're doing Christian genocide, you then go to church to go and carry people again? Can you not see that really sending a message? How can you, when they're describing us as a country that is dangerous and has problems, you then go ahead to go and kidnap people again? My view is that the country should realize it's at war, and the president, because as the chief security officer, should declare war on those who try to terrorize us or try to kill us. There's a lot of argument about the socioeconomic reason for banditry and kidnapping, and that we should win the battle of heart and mind. Yes, I agree with that, but I also believe that we should kill those trying to kill us. I also believe that we should deploy more boots, more bullets, and more bombs. I believe that it is the duty of the state, if it's worthy of the name, to deploy its superior and legitimate force. I believe that we're in a place now where anybody who's a bandit, a terrorist, linked to terrorists or bandits, affiliated to them in any way, should be afraid. We need to turn the table and make those who are terrorizing us feel pain and fear and confusion. And that is on one side. But we also need to go after them, not just in terms of military operational thing. We need to go in terms of finance, see how they're financing themselves. What are they doing with the money they collect? Who's keeping it for them? Who's funding them? Where are they buying from? We need to make people afraid to sell to anybody that looks like a terrorist or smell of banditry. Then we need to review our borders. It is time we know that most of the arms used, if not all of it, are not manufactured in this country, and make sure they do not get into the country to get to the arms of those who use it against us. And if anybody, any Nigerian citizen, suspects anybody of terrorism or banditry, this is the time to make sure they not only have the courage to come out, they should know they have the duty to come out, and they should be protected when they come out to denounce and report these things.
Prof, if I let you go, what would you say is your assessment of the effort of government so far in how they've been able to manage the situation we found ourselves? There are a lot of moving parts. We've seen service chiefs change, we've seen redeployment, we've seen measures, all kinds of... What's your own assessment? Are you impressed? What's your own assessment of the effort of government in managing national security?
Including the declaration of emergency. I think it is good that we're having, this reign of reaction, which we'll have had long before. I think, I like to welcome the president to the club of proactive people like myself and others. I think it's a good thing that we're acting now. It's a lot of it is late, but what is late, the best next time is now. So yes, I think the reactions are good. We expect results. I expect two things to happen. That we start arresting people that we suspect of something, and that we start even inviting some people, what are they called? People of interest in some matters. There's some phantom list going about. I think it's time we start making that list public. And since there is a theory, rumors about some people who they say in high places have been abetting terrorism, I think those people we start calling them for some conversations, whether arrest or just invitation, to say, we heard that you're linked to terrorists, sir. Can you come and explain to us what is your position on terrorism? I think those kind of high-profile interception, investigation will help the morale of Nigerians generally and of those fighting terrorism. And I think we need to listen to some service chiefs and some security experts that have talked about collusion between government and terrorism, or some kind of laxity. I think we need some populist move. I think that's my point. Right. And we also need to, I insist, militarize some areas where we suspect to be high level of danger. We need to let them feel the state. I have seen in this country, in some states that have been privileged to monitor elections, that Nigerian police force, you might not know, most viewers, they have shining helicopters with the painting of Nigerian police force. We have armies in places. I think this time we deploy those kind of force in every area, so that the area should not just feel safe, but also to make it insecure for those who are against security. But so far, something's been done I like. Well, I like them because I asked for them for long ago.
All right.
So yes.
All right, Prof. Very apt and well said. Thank you so much for your expertise and bringing light to the conversation. Professor Anthony Kila is a professor of strategy and development. As always, thank you. We appreciate you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.